Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jim Williams flying solo today. Sean is under the weather. He came back from England and wasn't feeling well, and we wish that he is doing better today. Amadeus will be with us tomorrow, so the gang will be back tomorrow. You got me today on solo. So, obviously, I'm here to answer any questions that I can. Always appreciate the comments, and it's important for you guys, if you have the time, and we hope that you do, that you hit that bell and like us and share so that everybody knows what time your favorite soccer show is on. Okay, greatly appreciate that. We're going to go over the headlines. We're going to check the soccer scores. We're going to go through all that as we get moving here today. Let's start with some information that we talked about yesterday, and that is that Manchester United received 4 bids at the beginning of the week. The Glazier brothers, who own the team, and they also own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, basically said that the bidding was not to their liking. They thought that they deserved more in the way of compensation. They're looking for somewhere around the $10 billion mark. I don't know that anybody's going to hit that, but maybe the $8 billion mark, which is still a great deal of money. But it is right now the world's largest and most expensive franchise. So if you want it, then writing a check for $8 billion is going to get it for you. And I think that is a pretty amazing thing. But again, those of you out there who might be willing to write that check, I can send you the information on where to get the information where to send your check. Let's do some updates at the moment. Let's see. Early on in the game between Arsenal and Everton, there is no score. There's no score in Liverpool and Wolves. Both those games at present are being played on Paramount Plus, and they are in the 15th minute of play. So Arsenal and Everton, Liverpool and Wolves at this point in time, 15 minutes in, no score. In Spain, in the Copa del Rey, it's Osasuna and Atletico Bilbao. And in that particular match, again, they're 15 minutes in, and there is no score. All right, so that's your up-to-date scoreboard. Let's talk about some headlines in the news. Aaron Rodgers. Stop me if you've heard this. Aaron Rodgers is still undecided about his future. He expects, though, that he will be making a comment on it one way or the other in the not too distant future. So Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers quarterback, once removed from the MVP, he was the MVP 2 years ago, is deciding whether or not he wants to return to football. If so, if he's going to ask Green Bay to trade him. There has been some conversation that if the Green Bay Packers were to trade him, it certainly would not be within the division or the conference for that matter. There's been a lot of talk about he may end up, in New York, which is ironically where Brett Favre ended up. So that's possible. Is it probable? I don't think so. But for the moment, it would take a heck of a package to get Rodgers out of Green Bay. But as far as his future is concerned, he said a decision will come soon. Let's move to basketball. Joel Embiid, focusing on winning title, not an MVP. I want to be respected. Joel Embiid, oftentimes underrated, actually, as the leader of that Philadelphia team, which has, done pretty well. So not too bad for Joel. He's focused on winning a title, with the 76ers. Something hasn't been done in quite a while in Philadelphia with regard to the NBA. So Joel Embiid, a team player, not somebody who's looking to put points on the board and get that MVP. Georgia star defensive tackle Jalen Carter was charged in racing in a fatal car incident. More details as they become available. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud headline the top 5 quarterbacks in the upcoming NFL draft. Let's delve into that one a little bit more. We know that that basically Fox Sports analyst Joe Catt says that Alabama's quarterback Bryce Young is a clear-cut first-round draft choice. He's likely to be the first quarterback taken. The concern about Bryce Young is not his arm. He's got a tremendous arm. Actually, not his wheels either. He can run. That's not his premier way of doing it, but he can run. 5'10" and weighs about 200 pounds. So not exactly, a huge guy, but definitely somebody who, reminds me a lot of, someone who did quite well in the NFL, and that was, of course, Drew Brees. Ohio State's C.J. Stroud is really kind of a no-brainer. He's likely to be a second quarterback taken off off the board. Now, here's where I'm concerned, and that is that traditionally quarterbacks from Ohio State have not done all that well. Okay, I would like to see, there really hasn't been a premium for them. They haven't overwhelmingly done amazing stuff. But then again, we'll have to see how that works out. But at this moment in time, C.J. Stroud is literally the number 2 quarterback on the draft board for the Fox game. So let's move down the list and see who else is on that list. And we got Bryce Young at number 1. We got C.J. Stroud at number 2. Here's the one that kind of blows me away. Now, Anthony Richardson played for the University of Florida. That's my team. Okay, I watched that team. I love that team. Richardson was the most inconsistent player I've seen in years quarterbacking at Florida. Now, I throw no shade on him as an athlete. Anthony Richardson is a bona fide athlete. He's got a great arm. He's got great legs. He can run. He's big. He's raw as heck, okay? That's the key. The key is he's a raw talent. He didn't really do that much at Florida, but he decided, rather than jumping into the portal and playing somewhere else, that he was going to, hit the open market and play professional football. So Anthony Richardson, surprisingly, is 3rd on the list. And I think the reason he's 3rd on the list is for what I said, and that is that he's a lot like a Josh Allen type, okay? He can throw the ball, no question about it. He can run the ball, probably as well, if not better than Josh. But he hasn't done it consistently in college at Florida, and that would concern me. Now, if you're someone who wants to take a flyer and say, okay, look, Anthony Richardson is a raw talent, but I think that I can make him into, a Lamar Jackson kind of like quarterback, as I said before, Josh Allen, somebody who can run, but you have to respect the arm, and you're willing to take the time it's going to take to round Anthony into a first round, into an NFL quarterback, then, good on you. I think, but he's a project, and I wouldn't expect, even though he's considered the 3rd best quarterback in the draft, I wouldn't be surprised if he is drafted later, probably late in the 1st round, early in the 2nd round, because he is Physically, no doubt, he might be physically the best quarterback, with all the tools on the board. He is, however, not as well game ready as, say, C.J. Stroud or Young would be. Will Lewis at Kentucky. Now, Will Lewis it's kind of funny. Will Lewis doesn't really excite a lot of people in watching how he plays. But that being said, Lewis is a talented man, and he's got good. Will Lewis is, let's see, let's look at what I would say. He's Kenny Pickett, okay, who's done well in Pittsburgh in his first year. Lewis he's not going to excite anybody with regards to running ability or that sort of thing, like a Josh Allen, like we talked about Anthony Richardson. But Will Lewis is, again, like Kenny Pickett. He's a good passer. He can make all of the throws, okay? He has some of the traits of Richardson, but not quite. He's probably more polished than Richardson. He's got really good, strong arm, and enjoys playing that kind of football. So I would say, without question, Will Lewis a little better gamble than Anthony Richardson if you need a quarterback right off the bat right now. That being said, anyway, Henderson Hooker from Tennessee. Now, we all know that he got injured. Okay, he ran an amazing offense. I mean, that offense in Tennessee was just off the charts good. Okay, they were far and away the best offense in the Southeastern Conference, and that's saying something, given that C.J. Stroud and the Georgia team that was out there is, Stetson Bennett can play. There's no doubt. But hey, Herndon Hooker, I mean, he just balled out at Tennessee. And as a Florida Gator, that is painful for me to say, but it's true. Now, he was injured, as we said before. He's got a tremendous disposition. He's loved by everybody in the locker room. He is absolutely, a bona fide quarterback who could play in the NFL. That being said, as I said, he's coming back from this injury. How quickly he gets back, and how hopefully the injury didn't have any lasting effects, that would make Hendon Hooker probably, I'd push him all the way up past Anthony Richardson, because again, that Tennessee offense just smoked last year, and I would say he's certainly somebody worthy of checking out. So there's your top 5 quarterbacks. Stetson Bennett of Georgia is there. He didn't make the top 5. He, again, is a Kenny Pickett-like guy. I'm not so sure why Stetson Bennett isn't on that list, but he would be on my list. I would put him in the top 5. NBA, Kobe Bryant's family agreed to a $28.5 million settlement over those crash photos. You may recall that the Bryant family sued because first responders had taken pictures and shared them of the crash scene, and it was in poor taste without question, and it cost the county of Los Angeles $28.5 million. That money will go to multiple charities throughout the greater Los Angeles area as the Bryant family ends this trial. Well, actually, it was a settlement, so they ended their lawsuit with the LA County and the LA County first responders group that was on the scene. So there's that. Some more of today's most interesting stories. And, let's see, we got the NCAA's women's conference tournament schedule is out. And the SEC, by the way, begins their tournament today, ACC tomorrow. And then, of course, next week will be the men's tournaments in the conferences. And so keep an eye on that. The 5 most important questions from Andy Katz and the gang about March Madness, and that, as we said, will not be coming down the line here pretty quick. Zach Erdy of Purdue. Now, Erdy is a consensus National Player of the Year. He's been the most dominant player in college basketball this year. The Boilermakers have struggled, though, of late, especially on the road. Now the pressure will be immense. Eddie is expected to be, the Big Ten all-tournament player. The Boilermakers are expected to make a Final Four run. That means they're going to have to defer less and become more dominant. He knows right now he's going to get double teamed every time he gets on the floor, and we'll have to see. I mean, he needs to have a few 25 to 30 point nights, and grabbing 15 to 17 boards for Purdue to reach the promised land. Tyler Kolek is a Marquette. Now, the Golden Eagles have been one of the biggest surprises of this season. Marquette won the Big East regular season championship. Kolek will be, in competition for Big East Player of the Year. He made the preseason All Big East team, but he's expected to lead the Golden Eagles deep into the NCAA tournament. And that Marquette is one of those ones that you want to keep an eye on. Here's another one you want to keep an eye on. Watch out for St. Mary. Now, St. Mary's is in the same conference, the Western Athletic Conference, with, of course, Gonzaga. Adrian Mahaney. Now, Mahaney has been money for the Gales this year. He makes big shots. He's only a freshman, but he plays like a seasoned veteran. St. Mary's is a system game, okay? They play a system. It's kind of like the Princeton system. So there's a lot of slicing and backdoor cutting and all that sort of stuff. So there's constant motion. And Adrian Mahaney is to steal a phrase about about Darryl Strawberry, he's the straw that draws, that stirs the drink. He is phenomenal. The Gales will get a high seed, and they're projected to win at least 2 games, which is going to get them into the Sweet 16. That means Mahaney will have, to rise to the challenge, because, when you play college basketball in the tournament, it's always going to be tough. But look out for Adrian Mahaney. Look out for St. Mary's. They are a legit team with regard to making certainly the Elite Eight, if not going all the way to the Final Four. Jamie Jacques Jr. at UCLA. He's Carmelo's son, and Carmelo Anthony. And he grew up learning from his father. I don't know. I think the best way to put it is he's a 6'7" wingman. Came to the Bruins program. He's coming off. They were coming off a 17-16 season. They made a coaching change from Steve Alford to Mick Cronin. And Jacques' time at Westwood has been amazing. They made a trip to the Final Four, 2 Sweet 16 appearances, and for now the program's first in the Pac-12 regular season title. They got a good chance of knocking out Arizona, and maybe I don't know if they'll get that. If they win the conference title, they may get a 1 seed. If not, they're certainly a 2. So Jamie Jacques Jr., keep a lookout for him. His father, Jamie, obviously senior, was an outstanding player himself. Mike Miles Jr. at TCU. Now there's a surprise, okay? TCU, not known for its basketball, suddenly had a very good season this year in a very deep Big 12. The Big 12 coaches voted him Player of the Year before he even stepped on the hardwood. And so far, he's done quite well. So keep an eye out for Mike Miles Jr., TCU. Keep an eye out for the Horned Frogs. They may very well make a run. I don't think they're going to make the Sweet 16. I They may win the first game in the tournament, but keep an eye on them. You know, they have the talent. Let me just put it that way. They have the talent to be very, 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 very dangerous. Okay, so that's something to look forward to. Adrian Estrada at Hofstra, okay, is one of the nation's leading scorers. He's averaging 21 points a game. He's a senior. He's led the Pride to 2 CAA championships with a key road victory over Charleston this year. Estrada is scoring and his leadership. He's like a coach on the court. You know, it's somebody that you're gonna have to keep an eye on. And Hofstra is another team that is worthy of consideration and paying attention to. Michael Cohen. Now, Michael follows John's lead by selecting one of the players of 3 categories to keep in mind. So Michael Cohen is writer for Fox. Here's who he wants to keep an eye on. Brandon Miller, Alabama. All right. So for better or for worse, Miller has been the most discussed basketball player in the NCAA tournament over the last year or two. The freshman sensation in Alabama is averaging 19.7 points a game. He's got 8 boards per game. This season, he has a chance to be the number 2 pick in this year's NBA draft. He scored 41 of his team's 78 points in overtime win over South Carolina this past week. He's the highest offensive rating player in the Southeastern Conference, and the conference has been pretty deep this year. So keep an eye out for Brandon Miller. He is a streaky player, and we'll have to see how that plays out. Okay, so now that we've talked about, let's talk about the odds and who to keep an eye out for as you bet on March Madness. Sorry, I had to get a little liquid in there to keep my throat going. The odds are off the board. North Carolina, Duke, and Kentucky are struggling to various degrees. Kansas and UCLA are carrying the wire for college basketball's blue bloods. But there's a lot of teams that we didn't see coming that are there. Houston remains the odds-on favorite to win the tournament, okay? They probably will get the number 1 seed overall. Houston has played phenomenal. Haven't played that well since Guy Lewis was there with Pilgrim Elijah and Phi Slamma Jamma group. They're very, very good. Kansas is a good team. The Crimson Tide of Alabama, who's had serious off-court issues, schizophrenic, but do the Cougars and the Crimson Tide have what it takes to, hoist that trophy on April 3rd? I don't know. It could also be Kansas or UCLA. There's plenty of dark horses out there. I would say that you got to keep an eye on it. Okay, so Houston's hype. The Cougars are 27-2, but they're 17-12 against the spread. That would concern me. So they don't win games, by big numbers. Kevin Sampson's team is, at the moment, they're plus 600 favorite at wins to win it all. They're plus 650 at Fox Bet. I don't know. I like them as a Final Four team. I don't know that I like them for a championship. They are very, very talented. They had wins last year in the Sweet 16 over a very good Arizona team, and then they beat, of course, they had that terrible performance against Villanova. Baylor ran them off the court in the Final Four 2 years ago. Alabama has won both meetings at home. So we'll have to see how that goes. Gonzaga also took them out. So Houston, probably the top 4 teams in the country right now, or top 5. Let's go with Houston, Kansas, Alabama, UCLA, Marquette. Those are your top 5 schools, at least in my mind. The problem, as I say, the one team there to kind of keep an eye on and maybe just kind of, wait is Alabama. They've got so much going, against them. Right now, they opened at plus 4,000 at WinBet. They're right now at 7,500, so that's plus 7,500. That's a long shot at this point in time. As I said before, Kansas is really and UCLA are carrying the blue bloods water at this point. It's been a bad year for the ACC. I mean, Miami's the best team in the ACC at this point in time. If we're looking for, that dark horse, that team that might just sneak in and take a championship that nobody really expected, keep an eye on Creighton, okay? The Blue Jays are 18-11 against the spread. They, they played very well. They have an 8-game winning streak. They're presently at plus 4,000 at WinBet. They're also plus 4,000 at FoxBet. So they're in the same range as TCU at this point in time, but they're a much more talented team. They're a much older team. In other words, they have more seniors and guys who played together. I think that really, when you get into the tournament, is huge. Guard play and how long you've been together have really helped out. Another long shot, and this is one of my favorites, is San Diego State. They've been playing very well in a very underrated Mountain West Conference. I mean, Mountain West is a great conference. San Diego State is doing well out there. The Aztecs are 23-5. They're not that great against the spread. They're 13-2. But if you're just looking for a team that you want to place a bet on, a few bucks just as a long shot, I think San Diego State wouldn't be a bad opportunity there. So that's what we can say about the upcoming NCAA tournament. Obviously, there's when we talk about it great length a little bit later as we get closer to the time. Checking on the scores at this point. Let's refresh and see what's going on. Arsenal and Everton, Liverpool and Wolves, still no score at this point in time. Let's go back to the school. Let's go back to the news situation. All right, as we said before, quarterbacks and wide receivers are doing well at the draft. At the combine. Let's see what we got with regard to everything you need to know about that NFL Combine, which is going on out in Indianapolis. Excuse me while I take a little drink there. Okay, here we go. At the Combine, the 40-yard dash, of course, a lot of people are expecting. Here's what to look forward to when it starts on March 2nd. Defensive linemen and linebackers are first up on March 2nd. March 3rd, defensive backs and special teams, quarterbacks and wide receivers, as well as tight ends. On the 4th of March, on the 5th of March, it's offensive linemen and running back. Okay, who's going to be there? Here's some of the key players. Quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud, of course, we spoke about him of Ohio State. We also talked about Will Lewis of Kentucky, Anthony Richardson of Florida. They all expected to be at the Combine. Well, Alabama quarterback Bryce Young, Georgia's defensive lineman Jalen Carter have decided they're going to sit it out. They will probably have senior days, which you have an opportunity to see them on campus later in the year. So those guys aren't coming, and as we said, a couple of star quarterbacks will be there. So that's the theory of the case for them. Let's take a quick look around and see what's going on. MLB Power Rankings. The MLB Power Rankings, this is from Fox. Number 18 out of 30 is going to be your Washington Nationals. Few teams in Major League Baseball history have come tumbling down the mountaintop from a championship to the depth any faster than the Nationals. It's a legitimate speed run from first to worst. The iconic World Series run, which is fantastic in 2019, to a league worst 0.07 in 2022, ending with a roster that barely resembled the group that hoisted the Commissioner Trophy just 3 years prior. Now, the contributions to that is Juan Soto is now playing in San Diego. Max Scherzer is in New York. Trey Turner is in Philadelphia. Left fielder and free agency took Anthony Rendon to the Angels, and then the regression of Pat Corbin and the inability of Steven Strasburg to stay, healthy has not helped. Ryan Zimmerman retired, Howie Kendrick retired, Brian Dozier retired, Adam Eaton retired. So it's been a tough time for the Nationals, but the Nationals have been a team that they told their fans, look, we'll get better. The money has been spent. The team is likely to be sold. It's a pretty good chance that it's going to be sold. They're going to be sold, I should say, to Ted Leonsis, who owns the Capitals and the Wizards of the NBA. So the team is being sold. Ted Lerner, the patriarch who bought the team, and he and his son Mark ran the team. Lerner passed away recently. His son Mark, who is loves the team, loves baseball in general, has had health issues with some cancer. Unfortunately, he's fought that valiantly. He lost a leg. It's been a very tough time. They've been very good owners in Washington. The Nationals fans have been very blessed with the learnership, the learners and ownership at the team. So no question that we're looking to see what happens in that regard. Big league's position players, they think they have 4 out of 10. Here's one of those guys, Victor Robles. Now, Victor Robles, when he came up, it was expected that Victor Robles was the star and that Juan Soto was kind of like the supporting cast. He was once a consensus, as I said before, top 10 prospect in Major League Baseball, but Robles has arguably been more hyped than actually he deserves. Defensively, he's an elite defensive player. I mean, this guy can run down a ball, like anybody in center field. I don't think there might be. I would say defensively, Victor Robles is probably in the top 5 in all of baseball in defense when it comes to playing center field. He's got a plus arm, and he knows how to run a route to a ball. His problem has been, frankly, he just can't hit. And when you come into this league and you play center field, that's a position that you need to have be either a power guy or at the very least an average guy. And Victor's had problems in both. He can hit home runs, but he's streaky in that regard. He can't get that batting average up to 275, let alone over 275. So that's a problem with Victor. He reminds me a great deal of Michael A. Taylor, who, as a player with the Nationals, was a brilliant offensive player. A brilliant defensive player, but his offense lacked. He ended up in Kansas City, where he did quite well as a defensive player, but again, not much in the way of offense. The names that most of the Nationals fans are keeping a lookout for is shortstop C.J. Abrams. He's a guy that they got in the trade. Catcher Kelbert Luis. Both those guys should be elite. I mean, they got C.J. Abrams from the Padres. Obviously, the Padres don't need a shortstop. They're good there. Thanks. Kelbert Luis came over in the Scherzer Turner deal in Los Angeles, and he is expected to be. He was their top pitching prospect, and he's had trouble, but he's catching prospect. He's had a little trouble, but he definitely I think is going to be someone who's going to be a catcher for a very long time. They just need to work on his batting at this point. So, as I said, Abrams can play a shortstop. He has all the physical tools to be an elite player. He's got outstanding speed. he may still manifest, the ability to hit home runs, although that's really not his stock or trade. He's a singles, doubles guy. And as I said, his speed is very important, especially now the way that baseball has moved to the larger bags and the pitch clock. So that plays to his strength. Luis Garcia, he's about the same age as Abrams, like 23. He's demonstrated impressive ability to hit. He's a little below average defense at second base, but they can work on that, and he can get better at that. So Luis Garcia is one of the bright spots. Then we have three, what I guess would be fair to call reclamation project. Carter Kieboom. Now, Carter was the number one guy 4 years ago in the Nationals farm system. He was untouchable. Nobody, everybody wanted him. The Nationals kept him and decided, okay, they had Rendon at third base. They didn't really need him at that time. They had Trey Turner at shortstop. They didn't need him at that time to play there. When they did bring him up to the big club in 2020, he just couldn't hit. His defense was pretty good, but his hitting wasn't good. And as he continued to play, it didn't get any better. So whether or not Carter Kieboom is a legit Major League Baseball third baseman or shortstop, yeah, he can play the position defensively. He just can't hit at the moment, and that's a problem. Jeter Downs and Lucas Fox are Washington's developmental track players. They got a ton of confidence in this future trio, but this really is a make or break year, more for Kieboom than Downs or Fox. Okay, now pitchers, let's go there. Mackenzie Gore and Josiah Gray are the headliners. They came over in Soto trade. Mackenzie Gore is your guy who came from the Padres for Soto. Scherzer Turner brought Josiah Gray. And Mackenzie Gore and Josiah Gray were both number one in pitching wise in the respective trades. Mackenzie Gore being the number one pitcher from the Padres organization, and Josiah Gray, the number one pitcher from the Dodgers. So those are your two guys that everybody wants to keep track of, and we hope that from that standpoint that they can do what they need to do. But that's going to be a bit of a situation here. We'll see how it works out. Gore, by the way, is number one, which I've never seen a picture where that number. Kind of interesting in that way. Their first round pick, Cade Cavalli, makes his future as a staple in the rotation, and I think that he's been consistently inconsistent, but I think that the players there that they, the folks that they like from the scouting situation think that Cavalli is, he's raw, he's young, and so he can throw that ball, in the mid to high 90s, which makes him, a power pitcher. We'll just see how he holds up over 30 starts in a major league season, and if he can get better as time goes by. So there's some names to keep a lookout. Position players, do they have enough good position players to be consistent this year? Unfortunately, I don't think so. But we'll see. This is a team that's rebuilding. They've invested a lot in their farm system. It shouldn't take them long to get back, and I think part of this is, waiting for the sale to take place. Once the sale takes place, then they'll dip into the free agency barrel and come from there. They haven't been shy at spending money in the past. I don't expect that they'll be shy once they feel they've got a core group to build around. So there's that for the Nationals. Meanwhile, a couple of other headlines. Gavin Lux's, torn ACL is a major blow to the Dodgers. They're looking for options. both inside and outside the organization. Speaking of the Dodgers, Mookie Betts making LA home on and off the field. He moved into a nice digs in the LA area. So Mookie's decided, okay, I like it here. Let's go for it. And the Orioles and the Pirates play a game today that will have no umpires. Okay, that's right. There's no umpires. They will be using all the, all the new technology Major League Baseball has sunk a lot of cash into. There was a game that they played yesterday that ended at 7-4, with the Buccos winning that one. It was very interesting to see what went on without the umpires. Baltimore coaches appeared to signal they wanted to play the bottom of the ninth, with the Pirates agreeing. But at that point, the Pirates broadcasted showing that the umpire crew, that was doing the game there, went out of their way to tell the Buccos to stay in their dugout. So today they're going to play without some umpires. We'll see how that plays out as well. Should be interesting. Should be absolutely fascinating how that works out. Let's go from baseball. I'm going to jump in here real quick and check the scores. Again, if you're watching Arsenal and Everton, they are 0-0 in the third minute. Liverpool and Wolves, 0-0, and they're in the 15th minute. So both those games being played right now. So if you want, they're on Paramount Plus. Now let's go back and see what stories we have that we haven't touched base on with our main topics. The Giants' commitment, the New York Football Giants' commitment to Daniel Jones could cost them Saquon Barkley. Now, this is an interesting story written by Ralph Vicino, and he says that Daniel Jones is going to be the Giants' starting quarterback in 2023, one way or another, which GM Joe Shine has been in consistent contact with Jones' agents about signing him to a long-term deal. He's still on a rookie deal, plus if they needed to, they could always franchise him, which they don't have to do that. That's something Shine doesn't want to do, so the agent is not too keen on that. He is waiting to find out. If you have a franchise, Daniel, I think, is the best for the organization. And I don't think that it may not be best for Daniel, when they were talking about this at the Combine, especially as we build a team around him. And the answer to the question about receivers and other positions, really something that they hope to address at the draft. The plan B, and there really isn't a good plan B, there never is really a good plan B, is to be aggressive in free agency, but at that point, they run the possibility of losing their top running back, Saquon Barkley. Now, GMs in the offseason, because of the salary cap, are looking at, maybe they'll cut a wide receiver like a Kenny Golladay, or maybe they'll get rid of some defensive players to make cap space. It's estimated that Jones is going to cost them about $32.4 million. They're in cap hell, so whether or not they can afford to extend or bring back Saquon Barkley at the moment is an iffy question. They're right now, if they're in contract talks with Saquon Barkley, but they haven't been close, according to an NFL source. The $10.1 million franchise tag seems like the likely answer for Saquon at this point in time. So that's where we leave things on that one. Let's again, as I said before, we're not We have no score in any of our soccer games today. Let's take a quick look over at some of the headlines that we haven't touched base. The report that the PGA Tour is cutting some of its fields, down, make it a little easier for fans to watch the games because of the tournaments, because of less massive field. There's a lot of stuff going on with regard to with Daniel Snyder. The rumors have it that the owners will be asking Mr. Snyder to sell the Commanders. Jeff Bezos has been heavily rumored, I should say, as a potential purchaser of the Commanders. We'll see how that works out from that standpoint. And let's see, we've got a mock draft. The Eagles addressed some potential losses. Coaching carousel, big time jobs remain open, and we haven't seen any. The trade deadline in NHL is coming up, and we expect that there will be some movement. To what extent, we don't know right yet, but we'll keep you posted on that one as well. All righty, so let's see what we got here with regard to college basketballs. Texas, Notre Dame are the biggest openings headed into March, and those are big time jobs for us to see. Who else ends up on that list? Ole Miss, Kermit Davis is out. Other openings: Green Bay, Idaho, Manhattan, New Mexico State, NC. T. Wofford, UT Arlington. Those are your openings at this point in time. I would say Idaho's a good job. If anybody wants in New Mexico State, again, those are two good jobs, underrated from the standpoint of where you are. I don't know what's going to happen in Notre Dame. I mean, Mike Bray had been there for quite a while. Digger Phelps, the legend, the OG in Notre Dame. Has long since passed and has Notre Dame's continued ability to play well. Texas is an enigma. They've had good players over the years. They haven't quite been able to get over the hump there. So I think that the Texas job, look, anytime you're coaching anything in Texas, it's a good job. So Austin is good. They pay a lot. They pay a lot of money. So. If any of you out there that want the Texas job, let me know. Just go ahead and give it a shot. Notre Dame, again, that would be a job that, again, it wouldn't be a bad job. But, Jeff Swabrick, who's the AD there, is using a search committee to fill the vacancy. A lot of times they go and they hire, groups that go out and pick up, the coaches. In this case, they're going to do it themselves. They might, and this is a might, take a look at Penn State's Micah Sherberry. Again, they're going back to the Big Ten at Ohio State, maybe get Chris Hallman, Miami Heat assistant and former Notre Dame player Chris Quinn is an option there. Colgate's Matt Lager. All options for the Fighting Irish. I would imagine that somebody like Penn State's, Shrewsbury or Ohio State's Hoffman might very well make a good choice, because recruiting in Pennsylvania and Ohio has long been something that Notre Dame has done very successfully. So my guess is that leaders in the clubhouse would be Penn State and Ohio State's assistant coaches. It's interesting, Chris Quinn, the former Notre Dame player who was under Eric Spoelstra with the Heat, as to whether or not would he want to leave and go and be a college coach, or would he like to stay with Spoelstra in Miami with the possibility of being an NBA head coach. So that's kind of normally you would say, well, if they can get a former Notre Dame player, they understand the system, they understand what it's like, they've been on the campus, they know the ins and outs. So, of course, Chris Quinn might be a good hire, but as I said before, he may want to be somebody who coaches in the NBA. So we'll have to see how that plays out. So that's the latest on the coaching situations. Boise State, by the way, has kind of been a team that has maybe played their way into the NCAA tournament because they did beat San Diego State, and they might just be one of those teams that Andy Katz has. So let's take a quick look at bracketologies. The number one line right now is, and this is Andy Katz, our buddy from CBS Sports. Andy's bracketology has the South Region, Alabama, as the number one seed. As we said before, the number one overall seed in the Midwest seed is Houston. Kansas gets the East. That's a surprise. And then out west goes Purdue. On the two line, you got Kansas State, Texas, Marquette, UCLA. Okay, for right now, those are your one lines. I don't think the one line's going to change. I think Alabama, Houston, Kansas, and Purdue will stay. That two line could change. UCLA still has some tough games, plus they have to play the tournament. Marquette, we talked about earlier. That's where Creighton might be able to step up and knock them out. So, and then Texas has a brutal Big 12 matchup with, obviously, Kansas State is in that. You got two Big 12 teams in Kansas State and Texas sitting right there on that two line. One of those teams is not going to be there. My guess is it'll be Texas is not going to be, but we'll see. Kansas State. I don't think any of these. I don't think unless one of these teams, Purdue or Kansas, gets upset on the one line. I don't think anybody from the two lines will move it up. UCLA is the better team in the Pac-12, but anything can happen in these conference tournaments, and it's they got one more year to play in the Pac-12 before they head to the Big Ten. So they may have a target on their back. We'll have to see how that goes. But that's where Andy has them right now. He thinks that they're going to be tough to beat, and he may very well be right. Here, West Virginia is on the bubble at this point in time. I don't see West Virginia. West Virginia's not getting in. They got their best wins so far have been over Pitt and Iowa State. Neither of those teams have been ranked. Worst losses, Oklahoma and Texas Tech. Again, that's nothing to write home about. So tough situation. Meanwhile, St. Mary's at 24-6, best wins over Gonzaga and San Diego State. That's money right there. They've done very well. Worst losses, Washington, Colorado State. Colorado State is not that bad. Washington is. So that was not good. Texas A&M, they're 22-8. Their best wins, Tennessee and Arkansas. Those are good wins. Losses, Murray State and Wofford. I don't know. They're probably in, and where they are ranked, I don't know, but we'll have to see. Iowa State potential in. That record is 17-12. They're gonna have to do something in the Big 12 tournament, and man, that's gonna be tough because that team, the Big 12 is totally loaded. This time of the year, they've got some amazing teams. So to keep a lookout for that. Let's see what else. One or two more headlines before we go, as I check the scores. 16 minutes in, Arsenal and Everton still level at 0-0. 0-0 Liverpool and Wolves. Okay, so the scores there. And Osuma and Atletico Bilbao in the Spanish League, in the Copa del Rey. They're 0-0 as well in 2 minutes into that game. So plenty of time to watch these games. They just are really getting underway. Premier League, Arsenal and Everton, 0-0. And Liverpool Wolves, also 0-0. So there's your most updated scores. All right. Tomorrow, boys and girls, at 2 o'clock, I will be joined by our buddies, my co-hosting Topics in Crime. We'll have both Amadeus and Sean back with us tomorrow. So we look forward to having them. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me this afternoon. It's been a lot of fun. It's always good enjoying and spending some time with you. We're going to sign off for right now. We'll see you tomorrow, 2 o'clock Eastern Time for World Sports Daily. I'm Jim Williams. Have a great day, guys.